Hello everyone, Dealco Films here, and today I'm back for another scene build, and this one is one of the largest scene builds I've ever done yet. This is a recreation of the sort of, jump scene, or the sort of trailer shot of the Battle of Malenka, or the Hollow Earth Antigravity battle in Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. I'll post the original screenshot I use as my base or reference, and then, sort of showcase everything that I did for this build. So in order to get the creatures into semi-accurate poses to how they look in the screenshot, I decided to give myself as much space as possible and the smallest models and just pose them all on GM Construct so I can turn them into statues and then paste them in the map that I'll be using for the underground Hollow Earth. I had to find a perfect map that had a cave that wasn't too large or too expansive, but I could build upon and add foliage and whatnot, which you will see later. So here I'm just posing Shimo, which I think was a super fun kaiju in the film, one of my favorite MonsterVerse Titans ever. I wish he was a little more utilized in the film. Same with Scar King. I just wish for this. I said my thoughts on the New Empire before. I love the New Empire. Such a fun movie. Super, super fun all around. But the one thing I would like there to be in, a future MonsterVerse entry is just, more of everything. Don't make it so fast-paced and just deliver on everything that's going on in the film. Because I feel like there could have been more scenes of Shimo, more scenes of Scar King. And I think it would have made for an even more enjoyable movie and build on those characters even more and make them even greater. But overall, Shimo was definitely stood out to me. Same with Scar King. I just really loved the clash with Godzilla and Kong versus basically anti-Godzilla and anti-Kong. I think it was just sort of, at first I was like, oh wow, this is kind of formulaic and, bland. But I think what they did, even with the limited time they had, I think they were just so much more enjoyable than I thought I was sort of expecting from these characters. But with Shimo posed, with her hands sort of bent down in the way they are, I tried to put the whip on old Scar King here, and that was kind of a challenge. The Scar King model in Gmod is built off of the Kong model from, I think, the Call of Duty mod, which is the Call of Duty event, Operation Monarch. You can really see it in the head. And I think the model is okay, but it's not too accurate, and the bones, especially in the arms for the model, are a little frustrating because you can't perform like the actual movements that they're capable of. They kind of are hinge joints, like every single part of the body, which is not true for anatomy. But I had to make do, and I tried to position everything as much as possible. But the whip was definitely one of the harder parts to implement, just to get it tied around him. But eventually I got it, and, in a position that I thought was serviceable. I'd say Scar King is probably the weakest part of this whole build. And Godzilla was the easiest because his arms and everything are already positioned in a way that is very similar, if not exactly how they are when he's jumping. So I just had to pose him up, make him a statue, and leap him off the ground. And then Kong was a little more challenging, as I wanted to get a fist out of him, which was kind of hard with his finger bones. They're a little complicated, a little out of my league, I think, and that's just on my fault. But I think I was able to get it into a position that was pretty close. And then you'll see exactly what I did for the Beast Glove pretty soon, because there is no Beast Glove Kong at the moment. I know there's a few modelers working on something, but I don't know if they will be in Gmod quite yet. But there are some really good models in the works that I hope to see in Gmod for every single one of these Titans. But Kong was such a standout in the movie. Definitely the main character, as he was in Godzilla vs. Kong, which, I was kind of like, I kind of wish there was a little more Godzilla, since obviously it's Godzilla X Kong, or Godzilla Kong, the New Empire, it's both of them. Godzilla was definitely written in, after they sort of developed this movie as being a Kong standalone movie. Part of me wishes it was, but I'm glad Godzilla was there, and I'm kind of fine with him being, the secondary character in this movie. I hope the next film will definitely focus more on Godzilla, but I wasn't completely, left, disappointed, I guess. Um, I was quite fond of having Kong be this main character, especially with Suko and Scar King and Shimo being such critical characters in the storyline. I was more than pleased. But here I am messing with Kong's deformed hand to try and make it look a little bit better from the perspective shot of the camera. So just messing with the advanced bone tool and getting something that works pretty well. Then I positioned Kong's arm up to get into that position. I wasn't too fond of certain parts of his jump, so I messed around with them a bit more to get something that I really, really wanted. And I think I ended on something that I additionally, I would say that a Suko model would be pretty cool to have. We don't have one yet, and I don't think I've seen one anywhere, so I think that would be pretty cool to have. But yeah, here I am making the Beast Glove. Sort of ironic joke, people were saying that the Beast Glove looks like the Infinity Gauntlet, so I was like, okay, why not use the Infinity Gauntlet as the Beast Glove? So I removed all the stones, tried to make it a brighter yellow, give it a little more shine, and position it in a way where it doesn't look too jarring because it is the opposite hand. And here I am on GM Big Island, and I went into the caves on the map and sort of positioned the crystals. You'll see in the final shot that the crystal placement is different, and so is the plant placement. It's because the game crashed and I was unable to save my progress. But this basically showcases everything that, I did. I was able to record this part. So I changed these crystal props to be green because that's how they are in the background of the shot. And they kind of pulse a little bit, which I thought was a nice detail. And then I wanted to put some additional crystals in the background to try and give it a little more depth as it's shown in the shot. The shot is a lot more deeper, but I didn't have a lot of space. And I positioned a lot of lamps and stuff to create the glow of the crystals. And lots of lights just to fill up that background to be the whitish green hue that the original shot had. And this part was really fun. I really liked messing with the lighting. When Godzilla and Kong are sort of jumping into battle on their side of the arena, there is a bright light. And it's putting Godzilla in here for scale purposes. There's some orange light behind them, and that's, showing it to be behind the pyramids and the crystals. And I was just messing with the lighting to see how everything was looking and see how Godzilla would fit in to the shot. So I was just doing this stuff for scale purposes, and spawning in some of the other Titans just to see how they fared, existing in this new space. And I think I did pretty well with the scale of the shot. Obviously, a lot of people have complaints about scale in the movie and how, everything looks so small and whatnot. And I think it's, going for something else. There's some moments, quite a few moments actually, where the kaiju do feel really, really big, but there's also moments where they feel smaller. And that's sort of on purpose, I think, because in the Showa movies, there are many shots where it's like, these guys are in the middle of nothing, and these are the only characters we have for scale, and we just have these miniatures. And I think the kaiju were still portrayed as huge. I mean, the Rock of Gibraltar is not small. The pyramids of Giza are not small. And they just smashed right through them. So I can understand the complaints, especially after movies like 2014, where the scale is such a huge part of it. But I think it worked for the movie that this movie was, trying to be. Here I am adding in the trees and the foliage. These are humongous trees in the film. They might look like bushes from the original shot, but they are trees, and massive trees, and they're all just right there. And I think that adds to the scale of this whole scene, because you got these trees as sort of the grass for these characters, which I think is kind of fun. And then I'm putting in some more greenery in these like knocked over bushes, and I think they're just tree branches actually, but I think they make well for good grass as well as some bushes and foliage just to add in the shots. This is super fun to do this. I also changed the scale of the ragdolls a bit in order to make them a little smaller, just so to fit everyone in. And then I put Kong and Scar King actually further back in the shot. A little magic trick there, just to make them smaller compared to Shimo and Godzilla. So Kong and Scar King are the smaller two, while Shimo and Godzilla are the larger individuals in the shot. And yeah, I just go through and I take some few screenshots and save a lot because of just how much I'm putting into this scene build. This took, I think, the footage. This video will probably be around 14 minutes or so, but I had literally 59 minutes of just building because of just how much I put into it. And I think it turned out really well overall. It's one of my favorite scene builds. Here I am adding some more foliage. I really love the Battle of Malenka, or the Antigravity fight. I think it's just such an interesting set piece compared to a lot of other movies just in general. I feel like this movie, if anything, delivered on having interesting set pieces, which based on the behind the scenes, where they're just talking about like, we're developing this image of like, what if Godzilla like jumped off the Rock of Gibraltar? Like, what would that look like? Like, I think, yeah, their imagination sort of run wild, and it's got like a childish charm to it. I mean, it's like super ridiculous. Freaking having Godzilla and Kong and these other monsters fighting in such bizarre locations. We go all over the Earth. Hollow Earth itself is really expanded in this movie. I felt like in Versus Kong, it was definitely beautiful and visually stunning. I think in this movie, they definitely expanded more on that, which I'm happy to see. I'm glad they didn't like back down and, take away any details or, made things even more confusing or anything. I felt like they added enough to flesh out the world and the ecosystem. And then this whole Malenka, the Iwi tribe, being deep in Hollow Earth, I kind of like. Obviously, you could say that it kind of steps all over Skull Island and the message that it was trying to tell there. But I feel like that message is still stands, and I think the brief moment they have in this movie, where Bernie and Trapper are talking about how, like, if the civilization was exposed to the other reaches of the Earth, just like how it could be tainted and sort of assimilated into different cultures, and how this culture, these Iwi, would lose everything or potentially be in danger of losing everything. And I think that's a powerful message in its own regard. I wish it maybe fleshed that out a little bit, because it was just sort of like one or two scenes. But obviously this movie had the Titans first and foremost, and I think there are some good stories in there too about you could argue that teaming up and settling your differences with an enemy for the greater good of the world in this case. Scar King and Shimo that much of a threat? That's up to your interpretation. I think Scar King with Shimo, yes, but Scar King on his own was definitely debatable, especially when Kong showed up. I guess Scar King really didn't have any opponents of any kind that could challenge him until good old Kong showed up. I mean, if you see Kong next to the other apes, he absolutely dwarfs all of them. But yeah, we're ready to wrap this shot up with just some more lamps and some more foliage. There is the final shot in there. So I have some behind the scenes images of just some of the other aspects of the build, just the models you'll see very soon. Just a few more lamps, and then here's the models just all positioned together, and flat grass. And there's a sneak peek of something that you'll see. Here's just the foliage and the crystals and just the monsters, and the final shot is this one where they're all jumping together, and I have a few different angles of it or zooms of it just so you can see all the Titans. And then I wanted to throw in Mothra and some of the other apes because I feel like that would have been fun to see in this shot too. Just add more to the chaos. So I threw Mothra and a few other apes in there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and the scene build. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.